Hello, how may I help you?
Hello, my name is Martina Bila. I made an appointment to see you at 10 o'clock. I'm a little early. Is that okay?
No problem. We're not very busy at the moment. You said on the phone that you weren't happy with your accommodation and were thinking of changing.
That's right.
May I ask what the problem is exactly?
To be honest, there's more than one problem. The main problem is that the accommodation is further than I imagined from the university.
I see. And the other problem or problems?
The other problem is that the landlady is quite a heavy smoker. I'm a non-smoker and I'm afraid that I find it quite unpleasant.
I'm sorry about that. Weren't you given the option of accommodation with smokers or non-smokers?
I'm afraid that's really my fault. I don't mind light smokers, but I didn't get my accommodation organised very much in advance, so most of the accommodation had gone by the time I applied. However, a friend told me that there is sometimes accommodation, accommodation becomes available mid-term because some people leave the university or change their place, the place where they live, so I thought maybe...
I see. Yes, it is important to arrange accommodation well in advance, though it isn't always possible. However, your friend was correct. We do get some accommodation available mid-term. Just give me a minute to find your details on the computer.
Yes, of course.
Now, your current address is 43 Parkway Drive, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, that's a fair way away. The bus connection isn't too good either, is it? I think that it would be better to focus on that as the reason for moving, rather than the smoking issue. However, I will change the information in the computer to say that this accommodation is only suitable for smokers or people who don't mind heavy smokers. That way we can avoid similar problems in the future.
That sounds like a good idea.
Now, the good news is that there is plenty of accommodation available nearer the university. The bad news is that it is more expensive.
That's okay. I expected that. Is there any catered or self-catering university accommodation available? That would be ideal.
I thought you might be interested in that. The day after you phoned, a place became available. It's catered, so it's the most expensive type of accommodation, but it's yours if you want it.
There's no self-catering accommodation available?
Not at the moment. Something could become available at any time, but then again, you might have to wait weeks.
I understand. Can I just check the cost?
It's £37.50 per week. You also have to pay £23.15 during the Christmas and Easter holidays, regardless of whether you are there or not. That sum doesn't include meals during those periods.
But summer holidays are not included.
That's right. Students are permitted to stay in university accommodation during holidays, but they usually have to move to a different flat.
I see. And do I pay monthly?
Yes, but don't worry if you're a few days late. It happens quite often, and we don't mind too much.
Can I see a picture of the accommodation?
Sure. It looks like this. You can see that there is a single bedroom for each student and a common living room and bathroom. There are no cooking facilities, but many students buy a microwave.
Can you tell me anything about the people I'd be living with?
There are 2 girls there. One is British and one is Indian. They are studying law and marketing, respectively. They're the same age as you, 20, and they're not smokers.
That sounds perfect. If I don't give my landlady a month's notice, she gets to keep the deposit, doesn't she?
That's normally stated in the rental agreement, yes. I'd like to be able to keep this university accommodation available, but I'm afraid I can't. If someone else wants it and takes it...
I understand. I'll take it. Can I move in on the first day of next month?
What day is today? 22nd. Yes, that should be fine. Give me a minute to print out the standard rental agreement. Welcome everybody. Are you all sitting comfortably? My name is David Price and this is our first meeting in a series of presentations called Countdown to Departure. I know that you have just arrived here for your year-long course prior to going abroad, but it is certainly worth taking the time to consider, to think about events that will take place a year or almost a year from now. I have handed out this useful guide to planning your time abroad. Please follow the suggested timetable closely. It is vital that you get each thing done on time. If you can get things done earlier, then we suggest in the guide, that's great. But certainly don't leave them later than we recommend. If you do not get these things done on time, it could jeopardize your study abroad, or at least delay it by a year. Now we are currently 1 year from departure, so you should start applying for postgraduate programs and scholarships immediately, if you haven't already. Consult your tutors for further advice on these points. You should also calculate a rough estimate of your study and living expenses and consider how to pay for them. We'll be looking at that in more detail during the next meeting. You should start arranging accommodation abroad as soon as you have accepted a place on a course. Arranging accommodation can be a rather bureaucratic procedure and can take a while. At the same time, ask the university about your options for paying your fees. The next point on your timetable is 6 months before you leave. At that point, you need to check your passport, and if you are going to need a new one, deal with that immediately. Remember that your passport might need to be valid for the whole of the period you intend to be abroad, but that you can often renew your passport at your embassy in the country where you are studying. In any case, your passport needs to be valid for at least 6 months after you enter the country where you intend to study. It might seem unnecessary to get your passport in order so early before you go, but remember that you have to get your visa as well. You should do that around 6 months before leaving too. Bear in mind one final simple point. Make sure that your passport has a few empty pages left for visas and stamps. 2 or 3 months before departure, you should ask your bank about the options for transferring money to the country you'll be studying in and setting up a bank account there. You should also start looking at booking your flight to the country you'll be studying in order to get the best rates. The cost of flights varies considerably from carrier to carrier, and even between different travel agencies, and depend a lot upon the time of year you are flying. Booking in advance can save you a considerable sum of money. When you book your flight, you should check with the airline or travel agent to find out what your baggage allowance is. At the same time, look into booking your other travel within the country you're going to from the airport where you will arrive. Don't forget to buy travel insurance when you book any flights. Finally, still 2 or 3 months before departure, make sure that you have an unconditional letter of acceptance from the university you're going to attend. This is vital, as it facilitates entry clearance if into the country. Next, about 1 month before leaving, find out whether you will be entitled to receive free health treatment in the country you're going to, and find out how much you will have to pay if not. Look into arranging health insurance if necessary. Also, buy currency and traveller's checks to cover your first few weeks in the country. Watch the exchange rates and pick a good time, but do not leave it too late. If you are buying traveller's checks or a large amount of money of currency, your bank may need a while to arrange this. Another thing to do is find out what you can take into the country and what items are prohibited. Finally, find out whether your home insurance policy will cover your belongings while they are abroad. If not, arrange suitable insurance or look into the possibility of arranging a policy in the foreign country. The last point on this timetable is 2 weeks before you leave. At this time, you need to do 2 things. One is to ask your doctor to write a letter explaining any prescription medicines, what they are, and why you are taking them. The second is to request a reference letter from your bank in your own country, as this will help you to open a bank account abroad. Now, let's take a closer look at
Hello, Dinesh. Come in. You said on the phone that you had a few problems to discuss with me. Tell me what they are and I'll see what I can do to help.
Thank you very much, Professor. I've been having some problems adapting to the style of learning at a British university and was hoping you could give me some advice.
I'll do my best. You won't be the first overseas student to have problems. What's your first problem?
Well, my first problem is organising my time. I mean, after I worked out my timetable for lectures, seminars and tutorials, I was surprised to find that I had quite a lot of free time. However, that's how it looked on paper, and not as it has turned out in reality.
I see. Take control of this time and organise it carefully. Time that is not organised can disappear very quickly, leaving you rushing to catch up on your work or even running out of time altogether. Learn the essentials of time management. First, make weekly or monthly plans that set out your study targets for the week or month ahead. Schedule time for reading and work out roughly how much you want to read in each session. Plan time to research and write your essays or prepare projects, so that you do not have to stay up late doing them at the last minute. Have you made such a plan?
No, I haven't. That's obviously something I should do. I can easily fill that free time with extra studies.
No, that's not what I mean. Don't plan to spend all your extra time studying. Remember to leave some time free for hobbies, sports, seeing friends, or simply relaxing. If you do not take time to enjoy yourself, your work will suffer and you will miss out on many other worthwhile experiences. Make a timetable for your free time if you like. Plan when to see your friends. Play your favourite sport or just hang out. Don't forget to revise your plans if you need to. As you progress through your course, you will get a better idea of how much time you need for different activities. Adjust your schedules and keep them realistic.
So you're saying that I need to keep a balance between work and play, and keep an eye on things to make sure that I'm not doing too much or too little.
That's right. Feel free to show me your plan when you've made one.
Thank you. My next problem is coping with my course. Living abroad in a new environment makes studying more challenging than usual. I'm worried about my progress and about how I will cope with examinations.
These concerns are natural, but do not let them overwhelm you. Here are 2 simple ways you can stay in control of your studies. First, ask for regular meetings with your tutor. In your case, that's me, to review your progress and discuss any problems. You're doing that now, so you've taken the first step. Let me know if you are having any language difficulties, though in your case that seems doubtful. As you are probably aware, there is a language centre here where all students can use language learning materials, but is probably not of much use to you. Second, why not try to form a mutual support group with other international students to discuss common challenges and to share useful ideas? This can be particularly helpful if you find the teaching methods very different from those you have experienced before. Another type of support group could be other students in your subject area. Get together with students on similar courses to discuss the issues, swap ideas and give each other support.
Yes, the second idea is particularly good. As you know, there are not so many overseas students on this course, but I know some other students from my country on other courses here. I think that I feel overwhelmed because I have set myself unrealistic goals. Just talking to you has made me realise that I need to take a more realistic approach and put my problems into perspective.
Just remember that whatever concerns you may have about new learning methods, managing your time or handling your workload, there is someone here who can help. I'm happy to be that person. All you have to do is ask. Hopefully I can offer you a practical solution.
Thank you very much. There is one other thing. When we had the orientation, the International Student Advisor mentioned a book that's available from the campus bookshop. It's not specifically for overseas students, but she said it was useful. I didn't write it down. You wouldn't happen to know the book I mean, would you?
I know it. I recommend it. It's called Learn How to Learn by David Warner. I'm popping over to the bookshop myself now. Perhaps we could go together. Part of the role of university education is to prepare students for their professional life and career. Part of this preparation is to introduce and train students in lifelong learning, preparing them to approach their career as a continuous learning experience, rather than assuming that the end of their university education represents an end goal beyond which there is no need for further learning. Therefore, students are encouraged to develop as independent learners. An independent learner is one who takes responsibility for his or her own learning, and is not always dependent on teacher being available to guide and correct. Such a student sets their own learning goals, makes their own decisions as to when and how to study for these goals, and also evaluates their own progress and develops further goals. This is not always easy for students, particularly those whose secondary education has been very teacher-focused, with teaching conducted mainly in lecture format, and with little opportunity for the students to take any control of the learning process. At university, while much teaching is conducted via lectures, students are expected to become increasingly independent in their learning. Departments approach this issue in a number of ways. For example, they might provide personal mentors. This could be a student or a member of staff who is available to discuss problems that the student might have, and who will support the student in the process of becoming an independent learner. The second one requires the student to make certain choices about their course, either in the elements they choose to learn or in the way in which they choose to learn them. Thirdly, there is the provision of learning opportunities outside the confines of the campus, including study trips and student exchanges. In the English Language Centre, we try to help the development of learner independence. This English Language Centre is a self-access one. A self-access centre is a place where learners come voluntarily to improve the subject that they are studying. In the case of the English Language Centre, we focus on English language. In a self-access centre, it is the student who decides what to study, when to study, how long to study, what materials to use, how to use the materials, and how to assess effectiveness. The learner is not, however, left totally alone. Learners are encouraged to come to the centre in groups, so that they can help each other in the learning process. And there is also always an English teacher available to answer any questions that students might have, to discuss their progress, and to help the learner assess their work. Let's take an example. Mary and her friend Jim have decided they need to improve their report writing skills. They decide to go to the ELC twice in the next week, for 2 hours each time, from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. The first thing they do is talk to the English teacher there, to help them identify what particular elements of writing a report they find especially difficult. Having done this, they identify suitable books, videos or computer programs from the index, with help from the teacher if needed. Looking at the materials, they decide which to use first, and how to best to use it. Working through the materials, they discuss problems with each other, compare notes and evaluate each other's work and progress. This process of working together is important, as the students are able to support each other in the learning process. Of course, sometimes they need more help, and so they ask the English teacher at the centre. When they have finished their studies, they review what they have studied, with help from their notes, and evaluate the extent to which they have, or have not, achieved their initial aim. In the light of this, they will decide to either do more work on the same topic, or move to another topic, either related to this one or something completely different. There are many ways students can improve their English independently of a teacher. Firstly, they can use English language videos in conjunction with learning activities, such as exercises to practice particular listening skills, questions to lead discussions on the topic introduced by the video. They can do follow-up tasks that use the content of the video to focus on other language skills, such as learning vocabulary or understanding the grammar used by the characters in the video. Secondly, they can use a computer program to improve their pronunciation by identifying and then practicing the individual sounds used in English. Thirdly, they can use a book to find a model business letter, for example, writing one of the same type but with different information, and then discussing it with the ELC teacher before finally rewriting it. Finally, they can use newspapers or magazines as stimuli for discussion activities, with a brief report written at the end, summarizing the discussion. However, the development of an independent learner is not dependent on a centre like the ELC. Within the university, as well as within individual departments, the library, the Student Affairs Office and the Student Union all provide a range of opportunities for the student to develop as an independent learner. Outside the campus, the opportunities are both physical and virtual. Physical ones include libraries, museums and other centres, as well as various special interest groups. In the virtual world of the Internet, the opportunities are both global and vast. To conclude, in a world in which change is central to our continued survival, the professional must have the adaptability and flexibility of a lifelong learner. A lifelong learner must be an independent learner, able to take responsibility for all stages of the learning process. It is the student's responsibility to take advantage of the various opportunities on offer. Good morning, sir. Are you enjoying the Perfect Home exhibition?
Yes, I am. It's very interesting. I'm planning on buying a home in the near future, and this exhibition has given me some great ideas.
I'm conducting a survey on behalf of the exhibition organisers. Can I take a few minutes of your time to ask you some questions?
Yes, of course. Can we sit down? I'm rather tired after walking around the different exhibits and stands.
Of course. I'll ask my colleague to get you a drink. Coffee?
Yes, please. Milk and 1 sugar. Now, I suppose you'll need my name.
Yes, Mr.
Glass. William Glass. Double S.
Do you have an email address, Mr. Glass?
I do. It's wglass@email.com.
I'll just fill in the date, 26th of February 2007. Right, what do you do, Mr. Glass?
I work at the Ministry of Culture. I'm a civil servant.
How old are you?
29.
And your marital status?
I live with my girlfriend.
Right, single. Do you have any children?
No.
And could I ask you how much you earn?
Well, I'd rather not say, to be honest.
Could you just look at these ranges and say where you fit in?
Oh, okay. There, 24 to 36,000.
Okay, that's the personal information I need. Now I'd like to ask you about the property you live in. Do you live in a house or a flat, and how big is it?
I live in a flat. About 100 square metres, a little under.
Do you rent or is it yours?
I have a mortgage.
Now, you said that you were anticipating buying another home in the near future. Are you intending to get a house?
Yes, I am. Just a small one.
What's your budget like?
Well, the bank has said that they'll allow me a mortgage of up to £100,000. So enough for a small house.
When you say a small house, what kind of size were you thinking?
Oh, perhaps a little under 200 square metres, with a garden of, I don't know, maybe 20 square metres.
And when do you think you'll buy the property?
Within the next 6 months, hopefully sooner.
Ah, here's your coffee. Thank you, John. Mr. Glass, have you seen any particular properties that you are interested in?
Yes, I have. There's an interesting development going on in the district of Hayden. The government has joined up with a private company to offer affordable housing there. It's on the outskirts of the city, but the transportation links look excellent. Regular buses to the underground station. That means that it will only take me an hour to get to work in the morning, not much more than it takes now.
They're going to have some nice facilities nearby too.
Yes, I'm looking forward to the cinema complex and the shopping centre, of course. I love films and shopping will be convenient.
There's a golf course nearby too.
Well, I'm sure many of the other residents will appreciate it. I'll join the fitness centre instead. Is your company involved in the development in any way?
Oh, my company just does research. However, the private developer involved in that project is our client. These smaller houses are about 180 square metres, which suits you perfectly.
Yes, property is so expensive in this city nowadays. It's good that the government is beginning to help those of us who don't make large amounts of money.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to give you these free gifts.
Oh well, thank you very much. A notebook and a pen are always useful, and the t-shirt will come in useful in the summer. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Welcome everyone. My name is Pamela Stark and I'm here to tell you about international students and employment in this country. Let me start by stating the most important thing first. Your ability to work in this country while you're here as an international student depends on whether you are an EEA national, that is a European Economic Area national, not an EEA national with a stamp saying restriction on working in your passport, or not an EEA national with a prohibition on working stamp in your passport. Now, if you are an EEA national, you can work freely in this country. You can work for an employer or be self-employed. If your dependents, such as your spouse or children, come with you to this country, they can work here as well, no matter what their nationality. This is thanks to EEA rules, and these rules also mean that students from this country studying in other EEA member states can work freely too. Now, if you have come here for a course lasting more than 6 months, the immigration authorities automatically put a restriction on working in your passport. It is worded in the following way: work and any changes must be authorized. This allows you to work under certain conditions. The first of these conditions is that during term time you can work no more than 20 hours per week, but you can work longer if the work placement is an essential part of your course. For example, the work period of a sandwich course. The second condition is that you cannot run your own business, be self-employed, or work as a professional sports person or entertainer. The third condition is that you cannot take up a permanent full-time position, though you can do full-time short-term work during the holidays. If you are enrolled on a course lasting more than 6 months and you do not have this stamp, speak to an advisor at your institution immediately. Do not start work. It may be that a mistake has been made that needs to be corrected. However, if a mistake has been made, if you start work, you are breaking the law. This could have serious consequences for your future stay here. Another point that I would like to make is that even if you expect to be given a restriction on working, or already have one, you cannot include your earnings as evidence of your ability to support yourself financially. However, there are 2 exceptions to this rule. One is if you will be attending a publicly funded college or university, and the institution guarantees that it will employ you and can provide details of your pay. The other is if you will be attending a sandwich course at a publicly funded college or university, and the institution guarantees that there will be a job for you and can provide details of your pay. In those 2 cases, you can include these earnings as evidence of your ability to support yourself. If you are from a country outside the EEA and your course in this country lasts 6 months or less, the immigration authorities are likely to have put a prohibition on working in your passport. It is worded as follows: no work or recourse to public funds. This means that you are not allowed to work at all while you are here. If you have come for a course of 6 months or less and want to be able to work, for example because your course involves a work placement, You should have explained this when you applied for entry clearance or when you landed, if you did not get entry clearance in advance. If you have already been given a prohibition on working, you may be able to apply to have it changed. Ask the international officer or student advisor at your institution for advice. If you can provide evidence that you will be on a placement, your passport stamp will normally be changed. However, do not begin your placement before getting your stamp changed. Again, that is illegal and could affect your future studies in this country. Now, let's take a look at the situation if you are a non-EEA national and have brought your spouse or children with you. In that case, their passports will show the conditions that apply to them. They may be given either a prohibition on working, as explained above. This means they are not allowed to work, or they may have been given an entry clearance or stamp that does not mention employment at all. In this case, they are free to work in here without any limitations other than the right to start their own business. They will have been given this stamp if they have shown evidence that you, the student, have been given permission to be here for at least 12 months. Finally, let's take a look at working after your course ends. If you are a non-EEA citizen, until now the majority of non-EEA students have found it difficult to obtain permission to stay on in this country after their studies, for work, apart from if they were training for a professional or specialist qualification before returning home. However, the government is currently reviewing its policies, and some changes may be introduced that make it easier for students to stay on for work. You can find information about the current position if you click on Work Permits on the website listed on the leaflet I have given you. I should say that special provisions have always applied to doctors, dentists and nurses, and these will continue. So, Jatinder and Ali, how did you deal with culture shock when you first came here to study?
Well, Katerina, when I first arrived in the UK, I was just so excited to be living in a foreign country away from my parents that I just didn't really notice anything at first. How about you, Ali?
Yeah, same here. That's quite typical, isn't it? Everything seems new and fascinating, but after this initial enthusiasm wears off, all the new experiences may begin to overwhelm you. Things that you found exciting at first may now seem strange and a little frightening. Even minor differences, such as being unable to buy your usual brands of various products, can add to the sense of strangeness.
Yes, that's right. Then you may start to experience sudden mood changes and strong reactions, feeling lost, disoriented, and even irritated and resentful. Most of all, you may wish you were back among the familiar people and places at home. All international students can experience culture shock in some form, even those coming from countries with very similar lifestyles to those in the UK. It is important to understand that this reaction is entirely normal and that it will pass.
Okay, so what suggestions do you have for me?
Well, I made sure that I arrived early. I got here about 10 days before most of the other students, so that I could settle in before things got busy. Many universities run special induction programs for international students in the week before term begins. A typical induction program provides a tour of the college or university, an overview of its facilities and how to use them, help with registering for your academic program, and social events where you can meet other students and staff. This can help you to start to get used to your new environment.
Yeah, I heard about those, but too late, unfortunately. Jatinder, did you go on an induction course like Ali?
No, I wish I had, but my parents wouldn't let me go a day sooner than absolutely necessary. It was very annoying.
Every university has counsellors who can give you practical advice on adjusting your new environment. These people have special training in offering advice and support, and they understand the challenges you face. They can listen to you sympathetically, offer practical suggestions, and refer you to other professionals if necessary. Your personal tutor and the staff in the international office of your college or university can also be helpful.
Have you heard about the buddy or mentoring system? Students who have been at the university or college for a longer period give advice to new arrivals and are available for help and guidance throughout the year. There is information on schemes such as these at the Students' Union, or the International Student Association will help you become involved. I used the system when I arrived and found it really opened some doors socially. You know, I got to meet lots of people, like Ali, right?
Right, Katerina. I think it's also important to keep in touch with home. Use the telephone, email and conventional mail to keep in contact with your friends and family at home. In larger towns or cities with large international communities like this one, you may be able to find people from your country. Spend some time with them. Many international students find that it helps to make contact with people from a similar background because they understand what you're going through. Spending time with people from your country can also be a relaxing break from the strangeness of the UK. You can speak your own language, eat your own foods and talk about what is going on back home.
Yes, and don't forget that the university has a variety of cultural societies, as well as an active international students association. Ask at the Student Union. They may also have information about national or cultural groups outside the institution.
Another thing you should try to do is to keep healthy and active. Make an effort to exercise regularly. You will feel better, and it can also be a good way to meet people. Eat a balanced diet and find a shop that sells food from your part of the world, so that you can enjoy familiar meals when you want them.
That's a really good idea. I'll sign up at the University Sports Centre this afternoon.
I don't know whether you believe in God, but if you do, remembering your faith can be helpful and comforting. If you follow a religion and worship regularly at home, you can keep this up while you're in the UK. It can provide a sense of stability and be a link to your life at home. Every major religion in the world is represented here, and most large cities have Muslim, Hindu, Sikh and Buddhist centres, as well as synagogues and churches of all denominations. The Student Union keeps a list of places of worship.
I'm not religious, but I do see your point. So there's plenty I can do, practical things I mean. And above all, I need to remind myself that culture shock is normal and temporary.
Welcome to this presentation on our online course, An Introduction to Electronics, which runs over 10 weeks and starts on 8th of May. Let me just say at the beginning that if you cannot make this date, please send me an email about the next course, and I will send you a list of future dates. My email is the front of your brochures. Now, let me tell you something about the course. Based upon our popular 2-day overview of electronics course, this new online course will introduce you to the basic ideas behind electronic circuits. The course will consist of 10 units each, of which will involve around 5 hours of study. The course is designed to act both as an introductory course and as a refresher course. After taking the course, you should have a good idea of how electronic systems work and how they are made. In particular, the course focuses on the design of a hi-fi amplifier. The course is limited to analog electronics, where signals are represented by continuously variable voltages, and will not cover digital electronics, where signals are represented by discrete numbers. Students should normally have a reasonable proficiency in school maths and science. Study to GCSE level is sufficient for most of the course, though study to A-level will enable a full understanding of the more advanced topics. Students on the course will be supplied with a copy of Terry Fitt's Fundamentals of Electronics. This will be used for directed reading, assignments and further study. It also serves as a useful reference source. The student should have PC available and a basic knowledge of Windows in order to use the simulation software from the CD-ROM that comes with this book. Now, who is this course designed for? This course is intended for individuals with little prior knowledge of electrical or electronic engineering who want to get a feeling for the subject, and for individuals whose knowledge is rusty or out of date. A previous exposure to basic science and maths at school will be assumed. Maximum benefit will accrue to those who have attended higher education in a technical subject or who have experience in a related area. Typical attendees may include those in jobs which bring them into contact with electronics, such as draftspersons, PCB designers, production and assembly personnel and software designers, those working with electronic products, such as managers and salespersons, those coming into electronics from a related field, such as scientists or mathematicians, and those simply curious to find out about this all-pervasive technology. The benefits of this course are that, first, it gives you a quick insight into modern electronics. It also puts emphasis on practical devices and systems. Unlike many other courses, no prior knowledge is assumed, but previous exposure to school-level science and maths is assumed. Fourthly, it can be used as a refresher course. Fifth, there is the benefit of getting hands-on simulations, and finally, all delegates completing the course will receive a University of Oxford Certificate of Completion. The course will be presented by Brian Williams, who started his career working as an electronic engineer for British Aerospace. Brian then became a lecturer and has taught electronics at Oxford University and Jesus College for longer than he cares to admit. He is also an active consultant and researcher. Brian is a dynamic lecturer and particularly enjoys teaching introductory level courses and interacting with students. Now, finally, let me just quickly go through the course content. Please remember that this course is intended for individuals with limited prior knowledge of electrical or electronic engineering. Unit 1 looks at electronic systems, including an introduction to the idea of signals represented by voltages. Wires used to transfer signals and voltage from one place or box or component to another, and boxes or components manipulating voltages, particularly amplifying them. Unit 2 takes a look at Ohm's law, the linear relationship of voltage and current, and the concept of resistance. It also looks at resistors and resistor networks. Unit 3 focuses on op-amps, providing an introduction to the ideal op-amp and its applications. The next slide tells us that Unit 4 is concerned with capacitors and AC circuits. The theory and applications of capacitors and their use in transient and AC circuits. Unit 5 looks at frequency response and filters, including both passive and active filters. Unit 6 takes a look at magnetism, inductors and transformers. Looking at this next slide, we can see that Unit 7 covers RL and RLC circuits, including tuned filters and crossover networks. Unit 8 is entitled An Introduction to Semiconductors. It covers diodes and rectifiers, both theory and applications. This unit also looks at special purpose diodes. Unit 9 covers transistors, particularly bipolar transistors, including theory and typical circuits. The final unit, Unit 10, is a review unit with a little look at further applications.
Hello, I'd like to become a member of the gym.
Certainly. Have you filled out an application form?
Not yet. Do you have one?
Yes, I've got one right here. Or I could just enter your details directly into the computer. It would be quicker.
OK, go ahead.
Could you tell me your name, please?
My surname is Pierce, Pierce, and my given name is Sharon, Sharon.
Thank you. And your address?
70 Welcome Lane, Tipton, TP3, 4MB.
Could I just note your date of birth?
13th of July, 1980.
Are you just applying for membership of the gym, or would you like to join the health spa as well? There's a special price of £50 a month, or £130 for 3 months.
I'd just like to join the gym, thanks.
OK, that's £20 a month, £50 every 3 months, or £180 a year.
I'll pay for the year.
Will you be paying by credit card?
Yes, here you are.
Thank you. Card number 467397020361. Expiry date September 2009. OK, I'll just print out a form for you to sign and you're a member. There you are. Sign here, please.
Great, thank you. Could you just show me around very quickly?
Certainly. Mike, could you take over here for a few minutes? Come this way. Right by reception, we have a refreshment area, serving healthy food and drinks. No coffee or chocolate.
What a good idea.
Beyond that, as you can see, there's the main gym area. The treadmills are by the window, so you get a great view across the river. Opposite them are various machines, and at the far end you can see the free weights area. If you look at the far end, you'll see 2 doors. The one on the left is the ladies' changing area, and the one on the right is the men's.
And the swimming pool?
There's a door in each changing area that leads to the swimming pool.
The health spa is upstairs, isn't it?
Yes, there's a flight of stairs leading from each changing room to the spa area. Oh, I forgot to mention that there's a sauna beside each changing area. Our members love using those after a workout.
How many members are there?
About 300 people, of which 200 are members of both the gym and health spa. Only about half of those people come regularly.
Does it ever get crowded?
It can get a little cramped at the weekends and occasionally in the evenings during the week. A lot of people like to use the treadmills. There are no rules about how long you can use a particular machine, but we ask people to be considerate. The swimming pool rarely gets crowded.
Are most of the members men or women?
I'd say that there are a few more women than men. Ladies are more likely to join the gym and spa, whilst men usually just join the gym.
Well, thank you very much. I'll be along tomorrow for my first workout. You're open at 7, right?
Yes, we're open from 7 in the morning to 10 in the evening. See you tomorrow.
We understand the importance accommodation plays in student life, which is why we aim to provide you with not only the best possible range and standard of housing, but also advice and assistance on the whole accommodation process. With our help, you should find yourself somewhere you want to live and get settled in with as little hassle as possible. Throughout the guide that I have just handed out, you will find details of the wide range of accommodation available at the university and how you can apply for it. We hope that the information we provide will assist you to make your choices, but please contact us at any time if you have any questions. Our accommodation ranges from the catered to the self-catered, the modern to the traditional, and is based over 25 sites across the city, all of which are located within a short walk or bus ride of the city centre. First, let's look at catered accommodation. Moving away from home for the first time can be as scary as it is exciting. Our traditional catered accommodation makes things easier for you, with meals included in the rent and a comprehensive support network to help you adjust. And with around 2,000 students in catered accommodation, you'll have ample opportunity to make new friends. If you like choosing what and when to eat, self-catering will be ideal. More than half of our new students live in self-catered accommodation, which offers a taste of real independence, plus the benefits of a sociable and supportive environment. You can choose from either self-catering flats, larger occupancy residences, or university-managed accommodation for one person, flats, couples or families. Then there's private accommodation. University accommodation isn't for everyone. If for some reason you don't get a place or would prefer to rent privately, we also have a register of university-approved accommodation and can offer advice and support if you want to rent private flats or lodgings in the city. Now, here you can see a map of the university accommodation nearest to the campus. Malvern Halls are located on Humber Road, between Severn Road and Thames Road. This is the tallest halls of residence, being a 25-storey block of student flats. You can get a good view of the campus from here. Grampian Halls are also located between Severn Road and Thames Road, where Liverpool Lane joins the two. Don't get Liverpool Road confused with Liverpool Lane, as I just did. It's on the south side of the street. Brecon Halls are between the South Gate and the West Gate. They're very slightly nearer the West Gate, actually. These halls are popular because they are newer and the rooms are somewhat larger than in older halls. Sperrin Halls are nearest to the South Gate, on Avon Road, but not opposite it. Well, whichever type of accommodation you go for, I hope it suits you. Now, I'd like to mention Hi, Tom. How are you? Have you been here long?
Hi, Jenny. I'm fine. I arrived yesterday on Sunday. How about you?
I got here last week on Wednesday. No, sorry, just a minute. What day is it today? Thursday, not Wednesday.
Why did you come so early? We don't have to be here until tomorrow. Couldn't wait to be free from your parents, I bet.
Very funny. I know I came a bit earlier than most people, but I wanted to move my things into my flat and take a look around the campus and the town. So, did you decide to take English literature in the end?
No, I changed my mind and decided on European history instead. At school you said you were going to take geography, right?
Yes, although I was also considering geology.
Sounds the same to me.
Well, I guess there are similarities, but they're not quite the same. What kind of information have you been given about your courses?
Well, not much. I've got my timetable and a basic reading list.
Yeah, me too. I've been given a list of books to start reading. I think there are 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, I've got a similar list. They're just books that provide the basics for the courses during the first year.
So, what's your timetable like? I get Wednesday and Friday afternoons off, but the rest of the days are fairly full.
Me too. Do your lectures and seminars start next week too?
Yes, I think everyone's do. This week is just orientation, isn't it?
That's what I gathered. My first class on Monday morning is, wait for it, modern British history. I'm looking forward to that. How about you?
Human geography, also on Monday morning.
It says here that the title of the first lecture is The Victorian Legacy. Sounds good. How about you?
I've got Global Population Distribution. Intriguing. Where are you living?
I got a place in the halls of residence at Wish Lane Hall.
Wish, as in make a wish?
Funny name, eh?
I'm at Bridge Road halls of residence.
That's very close to the university campus, isn't it? My place is a bit further away.
Can you walk, or do you need to take a bus?
I can walk, but it takes about 30 minutes. There's a bus. I guess I'll walk if it's not a bad day, and take the bus if it's raining.
I'll think of you when I'm taking the 5-minute walk from my hall to the lecture theatre.
I'm sure you will. At least I've got somewhere to stay if I don't want to walk home.
Cheeky.
Is your hall near the main gate or the north gate?
The north gate. Hey, I'm on my way to the shops. Coming?
Sure. What are you going to buy? Food?
Well, I might pick up a few things, but I was really going to buy some notebooks for taking lecture notes, seminar notes, and some printer paper.
That's a good idea. I need a few binders to put my notes in.
That's a good idea. I'll get a couple too. Pencils? No, I've got a few.
Oh, some pens. I always seem to lose them. Well, you've been here the longest. Where do we go?
There's a shop here on campus near the main gate. There's a cafe next door, so we can stop there too if you like.
Great idea. I could do with a coffee and a cake. Welcome to this presentation on the results of our survey of Asian students in Australia, the UK and the US. Australia is growing in popularity among Asian students, while the UK and the US are losing ground as the place to study for a degree, according to our international survey. Our research is based on the views of 1,500 undergraduates from 10 Asian countries studying in Britain, the USA and Australia. 60% of the students were aged between 18 and 21, and 30% were between 22 and 25. 4 in 10 students cited a better quality of education as their main reason for studying away from their home country. About 27% said they were doing it to broaden their experience, and because they were attracted by the cultural experience of living in a foreign country. Business, commerce and marketing are still by far the most dominant field of study, attracting almost 2/5 of students. 3/4 of Asian students polled in Australia said it was their first choice, compared to less than half when we conducted the same survey in the year 2000. From an Australian perspective, it's very positive, because more and more students are consciously choosing Australia rather than it being a second choice. The UK and American parts of the survey show that they are no longer the preferred destinations they were, despite still being seen as offering the best education in the world. Australian universities have done a really good job of promoting Australia as well as their own universities. Australia is seen as good value for money and is attracting the more price-sensitive students. Australia's overseas students' enrolments have doubled since the year 2000 to 200,000 in 2006, at a time when they have declined in the US and the UK's share of the global market is declining. Reflecting this increase, Australia's education exports rose 17.8% last year, and were valued at more than $5 billion for the first 9 months of 2006. In the United States, a clampdown on foreign students following the terrorist attacks on September the 11th has made many Asian students feel unwelcome. As a result, applications to American universities have declined. This could happen in the UK. If students find it hard to get visas, they could question whether the country really wanted them. Another factor in Australia's growing popularity was the wish of some members of the growing Asian middle class to settle in the country after studying there. The cost of study and value for money also featured highly on the list of reasons students gave for choosing Australia as a study destination. Much higher than in Britain. 34% said they selected Australia because they thought living expenses were relatively less expensive, and 20% made their decision because tuition fees were cheaper. Quality remained the biggest drawcard for students wanting to study in Australia, reinforcing the critical importance of its reputation overseas, according to new research. Asian students still ranked the US and Britain as having the highest quality universities, but Australia rated third, but ahead of other destinations like Canada, New Zealand and Germany. Despite the emergence of transnational education programs, 81% of students did not consider undertaking a foreign degree in their home country. It seems that the concern that these programs are going to diminish the number of foreign students is a bit premature. Only 4% of those enrolled in Australia had studied overseas before, a figure we attribute to an emerging middle class of Asian students wanting to study offshore. In the past, many Asian students had come from their home country's elite, high-income families whose parents had studied abroad. What we've got now is an emerging middle class who maybe haven't travelled before and whose parents were not educated overseas. Our study also shows that students rely more on education agents than in the past, with implications for universities that plug direct enrolments online. Whilst our findings are good for Australia, which is increasing in popularity as a study destination, they do not mean that Australia can rest on its laurels, as competition is increasing from a growing number of institutions and study destinations. Good afternoon. I'm considering applying to your university and would like to ask you some questions.
Of course, take a seat. Which course are you thinking of applying for?
Southeast Asian Studies.
I see. Do you have a copy of the university prospectus?
Yes, I do. I downloaded it.
So, you know that it's a 4-year course, including 1 year living and working in the region?
Yes, the A-level entrance requirement is BCC, right?
Yes, but on average our students have 3 Bs.
Are there any restrictions on the subjects that I take at A-level?
No, but we find that students studying politics, economics, history, geography or languages tend to find their first year easier. A background in at least 2 or 3 of those subjects is advantageous.
I see. I'm not studying politics or languages, but I am taking the other 3 at A-level. Are languages an important part of the course? You see, I'm not very good at them.
Languages are not a compulsory part of the course. They're optional each year. However, because students spend a year abroad, we strongly recommend that students take one for at least a year beforehand. However, there is a language lab that students are free to use during the day, regardless of the subjects they're taking.
Which languages are offered?
We have 5 on offer: Vietnamese, Burmese, Thai, Indonesian and Tagalog. They can be taken in the 1st, 2nd and 4th years. During the 3rd year, students are expected to learn the basics of the language spoken wherever they are spending their year abroad.
I see. Can I spend my year abroad in any country in the region I choose?
Yes, as long as you can satisfy your tutors that it will benefit your studies. This year, most students have gone to Vietnam, Thailand or the Philippines. Fewer have gone to Indonesia, Burma, Malaysia, Laos or Cambodia. None went to Singapore or Brunei.
What do students generally do during their year abroad?
The vast majority help on aid projects, especially helping with water supply and sanitation in rural areas. Others get involved in teaching English or in business, particularly the logistics side of things. A small minority get jobs translating or checking translations. That's quite well paid, but your language skills have to be up to scratch.
Good. I was attracted by the idea of teaching English or doing aid work.
Very often it's possible to do both. That way you can also develop a wider range of skills.
Thank you for your help. Can I just check the optional courses for Year 1?
The only choice in Year 1 is a language or a project where the student creates a portfolio of background information on the countries of the region. Actually, many students do both, since they find the project contributes to their general understanding of the region, and the languages are obviously useful in preparation for going abroad. However, students are only assessed on either the language or the project, and are free to choose which one.
Got it. And could you tell me about the scholarships that are available from the department? It says in the prospectus that there are some in addition to the ones offered by the university.
Sure. Actually, I've printed out a list. Here you are. Nothing is available for first-year students, but thereafter scholarships are awarded for high overall grades and also for linguistic skills. There is a smaller discretionary award for non-academic contributions.
Well, thank you very much for your help.
Welcome to our program on Indian youth. Are young Indians different from their elders? Smarter, lazier, less obedient? We have invited an Indian sociologist, Mr. Singh, to share his views with us. Mr. Singh, many Indians complain that the new generation of Indians is too westernized and has lost touch with its culture. What's your opinion on that?
Whenever a country modernizes, there is speculation that the new generation will be dramatically different from those that preceded it, in particular more westernized. Much of that speculation is based on superficial observations regarding rock music and the like. However, most studies show that new generations retain much, though not all, of the core values of their culture. Cultures change very slowly. What is changing quickly is the environment in which they live, their living standards, opportunities for advancement, and self-fulfillment. Young Indians certainly have more opportunities today.
Where does your information come from?
I have 2 children in their early 20s. I see their generation at close quarters. I often travel to both rural and urban places in India, and I see the young people there. The current generation has, by and large, rejected politics as a primary concern. They have grown up with a TV and a telephone, either at home or in the vicinity. They have watched MTV, but they still go to the temple. And most of them seriously believe that God exists. Regarding the opportunities that Mr. Singh mentioned, for the first time, it is acceptable in India for a kid to say that he or she wants to be an actor, a singer, a fashion designer, a writer, a cricket player as a profession, without parents losing sleep. It also means that they have many choices of role model. When I look at young people around me, I see more hope than helplessness.
Mr. Singh, what is the main advantage that young people in India have?
The biggest advantage the youth of India have is mobility. It is very easy for them to move about the country and follow opportunities. An edge the Chinese youth, for example, do not currently have. Also, young Indians are quickly adapting to new technologies, and English is now being more widely accepted and spoken than ever before. India's youth have a very unique advantage, a combination of mobility, language, and knowledge of technology. Add to that a country that has an entrepreneurial spirit and a very clear intent to adapt to Western culture.
Are there any problems as far as you can see?
I think that the biggest overall problem is with infrastructure. But as far as things that directly affect the younger generation are concerned, I think that the main problem is that parents from the growing middle class are pushing their children ever harder at academic activities. They believe this is the only way to stand out and survive in a system which is cutthroat because of the exploding population, and as education becomes more and more accessible to the masses. However, many parents are granting their children more choice, particularly in the area of choosing their own careers. The youth of today are definitely more aware of the choices available to them.
Do you think that competition is a problem?
Not at all. It leads to creativity. The younger generation is more creative. Competition ensures that creativity is likely to be the best way to get ahead. Though it is largely believed that the culture and value system torch-bearing youth are losing their way, I still believe that relates to a small percentage. The combination of the Indian value system and the Western approach is a winning one, and if the Indian youth can manage to achieve the right balance, global organizations will want their skills.
Mr. Singh, you sound very confident.
I am. Every generation will experience change. This will be more dramatic, especially in the context of development. Simply put, young Indians are more aware about the world they live in. They are more materialistic. They are consumers in the true sense. They are exposed to satellite TV, the internet, freer access to social interaction and mobility. They are global citizens. Adoption of styles and fashion from anywhere, particularly America, is quick. But as several surveys have shown, this openness and confidence does come with some sense of humility and purpose. I feel confident that they can dream and achieve. My generation could only dream.
Welcome back to the new term, Martin and Amanda. I hope you've had a good break and that you're looking forward to writing your dissertations. In this tutorial, I'd like to give you the opportunity to ask questions on writing the dissertation, such as requirements, dates, and who to see when you need help. I know that it's all available on the department website, but sometimes students just like to check or confirm information, or sometimes they need a little more detail. So, is there anything you'd like to ask?
Is there a fixed hand-in date yet? On the website it said that one hadn't been decided on yet.
I'm glad you asked that question. I just heard this morning that the deadline has been decided and it is the 28th of May. That's a week later than we had originally planned.
What about the word limit? The website gave a very broad range. What was it, Martin? 10,000 to 20,000 words?
I believe so, Amanda.
Well, I believe that was a typing error. It should be 10 to 12,000 words, but feel free to write a little more if you need to. However, make sure that your dissertation is at least 10,000 words long, not including the contents, references, and bibliography.
Right, thank you. And we can choose any topics we like, can't we?
Any from Year 3. And do remember to get your topic approved by your personal tutor. Oh, that's me, isn't it? Before you start writing, I'd hate to have to tell you your topic was unacceptable after you'd spent a lot of time on it.
What would you like us to show you initially, apart from the title?
Well, I'd like to see a basic bibliography first, along with an outline of your dissertation. You should get that done by the end of January. This month, in other words.
According to the website, the research should take 8 to 10 weeks. So that takes us from, well, until mid-April, basically.
Yes, you should have the research pretty much done by the time you return from the Easter break.
It seems like a reasonable amount of time, but I bet it disappears fast.
It certainly does. You'll probably find that you need to do some extra research during the second half of April. Ideally, you'd be writing then, but very few students get all the information they need, and the personal tutors almost always need to make some further suggestions. That's why it's really important to get the bulk of your research done by mid-April.
I see. If we get into trouble, or can see that we're going to get into trouble with our research, we should obviously contact you ASAP.
Absolutely.
Do you think that we should look at what other students have done in the past, in order to get a better idea of what to do and what to write?
It can be helpful, but what often happens is that students rely too much on what they read, so I would only use other previous students' work as a reference.
Got it.
I know that we have the research guide to help us, but are there any other books or sources that you would recommend? I mean, to help us with planning a dissertation and the organisation and so on.
Yes, I wanted to ask you that too.
There are several available from the library. I wouldn't bother buying any. My personal favourite is Dissertations in You by Roger Klein. Another good one is Mastering Your Dissertation by Helen Blondell. There's a book about research techniques. What's it called? It's something simple like research techniques for dissertations. The author is Helen Trailforth. Oh, I know. It's called Dissertation Research Techniques. Very good book. There's more than one copy of each of those in the library. One is for reference only, and you know about the recall system if a book is being borrowed by someone else and you want it, don't you?
Yes.
Good, very good. Anything else?
Well, now that you've mentioned research techniques, I've got a question. Questionnaires. A good idea, Professor.
The general consensus is that they're not very helpful, though some prominent researchers beg to differ. Clear them with me first if you decide to go ahead and use them. You see, you need to be very careful about the questions that you ask and order of the questions. Questionnaires very often lead people towards giving certain answers rather than getting at their true feelings and opinions.
Martin, anything else?
No, I'm happy. Thank you, Professor.
Yes, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Have you ever wondered where your recyclables end up after they get picked up from the curb? After you've left them at a recycling drop-off centre, or when your hauler has come to empty your recycling dumpster? Well, this presentation will tell you. The story begins when a resident places their materials out for recycling in a special bin, brings their recyclables to one of the recycling drop-off centres, or when a business puts their used materials in their recycling dumpster. It is very important that residents and employees properly prepare their recyclables for collection. Improper preparation of materials, for example not removing container lids, or including the wrong type of material, causes contamination. Although some contamination is to be expected, and is removed during the sorting process at the processing facility, processors may not accept materials that are heavily contaminated, and these will be disposed of. After materials are put out for recycling, the recycling truck comes to pick them up. Recyclables brought to the drop-off centres should be placed in the appropriate bins. The large containers are emptied periodically or whenever they are full. Businesses and multi-family residences collect on the days decided by the property manager. The trucks that collect recyclables from the curb and drop-off centres then drive the materials to a material recovery facility, or MRF. When the trucks arrive at the MRF, they are first weighed at the station to determine the weight of materials delivered to the facility. Next, the trucks proceed to the tipping floor, where they dump their materials. Items are dumped in specific areas to facilitate the sorting process. After the different materials are dumped on the tipping floor at the MRF, they are fed onto different conveyor belts according to the type of material. The materials then proceed up the different conveyor belts and are subject to both manual and automatic sorting. Individuals manually remove any large objects such as a lawn chair or garbage can, along with any contaminants. After the initial manual sort, the materials pass by a magnet that captures the metal cans, and then through an air sorter to separate the remaining materials. Once the materials are sorted, they are compressed into bales that are shipped to processors, who will then use these materials to create new products. Plastics can be recycled into items such as clothing, lumber, park benches and playground equipment. Metal and glass containers are often recycled into new containers, and paper is recycled into new paper products, such as copy paper, toilet paper, napkins and newspaper. Remember to close the recycling loop. Buy recycled both at home and at work, as this is the only way that recycling truly succeeds. Find out more about buying recycled products. Remember, if you're not buying recycled, you're not really recycling. So, how are we doing? Let's take a brief look at our recycling rate information. All municipalities are required to maintain a minimum recycling rate of 25% of the total municipal solid waste generated annually. We are required to annually report on recycling activities and file a report with the Department of Environmental Quality, or DEQ. These reports are due to the DEQ on April 30th of each year for the preceding calendar year. Based on information received to date, last year we reported a recycling rate of 33.9%, 2.8% higher than the previous year. Paper recycling was up 36%, as was the recycling of bottles and cans. Our target is a recycling rate of over 50% by 2014.